1 minute to go. Anupma, you can admit the people now. And you need to start the watch party in the group.
I've done that.
Great. It's time. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on your time zone. Namaste, namaskar, vanakkam, adab, sat shri akal. Welcome back to the live chat on Sunday. This is a show where we talk about various subjects of life. Last time we spoke about yoga, Pilates, the role of rest and recovery, mobility and flexibility. So in this series of fitness, today we take up another very important subject, that is the nutrition. A no fancy, no frills way to healthy diet. And we have two great experts with us. The first one is Ritika Samadar. She's the regional head of dietetics at Max Healthcare, New Delhi. I know her personally. She's a good friend and really amazing at her job. She has more than 25 years of experience working in this field, a certified sports nutritionist, bariatric nutritionist, and diabetic educator. She is associated with IDA, IAPN, IFSO, and many other organizations in this field. Then we have Gaurav Sridhar, who's a fitness trainer at the Anytime Fitness Gym. He's a fitness enthusiast, a very good trainer. He's actually a qualified sports nutrition expert with 14 years of experience in fitness. He's a senior trainer and he was formerly associated with the MS Dhoni Fitness Academy. Welcome both the guests on the show, and I hope that our audience will benefit from your expertise. Before I actually start the talk, I'll call upon Anupma to briefly guide the audience about how to go about asking question and any other basic rules of the day.
Thanks, Dr. Dhawan. I think the rules are very, very simple. All of us will keep our mics and camera off while Dr. Dhawan and the guests take the discussion forward. Once they are done with the discussion, that is when Dr. Dhawan will invite questions, or maybe I will. And you can just raise your hands in the chat box so that we can take the questions in the sequence and you can directly ask your question to the guests. We will first take the questions that are asked in the Zoom meeting, and in the meanwhile, there might be some questions that pop up on Facebook. So once the Zoom questions are done, we'll take the Facebook questions. Any questions that remain after that, we will take them in the live chat group and the experts will try and answer them there. That's probably all the rules are. Dr. David, back to you.
So in the chat box, when you open the chat, there's an option of raising your hand. So just raise your hand and to come in the queue of people who want to ask the question. So let me go on to the guests. Ritika, welcome to the show. Thank you very much for joining us. And I hope you're having a good day so far and you're looking very pretty, as always.
Thank you so much, Dr. Dhawan. It's actually a pleasure. I've been watching your shows for the last couple of weeks, and I was really excited when you actually invited me to be one of the panelists in this discussion.
Well, I'm glad to hear that now. So I'll start with you. First of all, let us know what is meant by nutrition and what are these terms like carbohydrates or carbs, proteins, fats. Please tell us about it.
So, in a very simple term, nutrition is like whatever we are eating, they're giving us a lot of nutrients. And these are the nutrients which actually our body requires to be healthy. So this is the science of studying all these nutrients and how they're getting absorbed in your body and all. That is what is the term nutrition, right? And of course, I think during the course of time, we're going to discuss about the various nutrients which are there. But just to put it together, we basically have 6 major kind of nutrients. So one is your macronutrients, which is, of course, as we just spoke about. So we have the carbohydrates, we have the proteins, and we have the fats. The other group is, of course, the micronutrients, which is, of course, your vitamins and minerals. And the last and the most important, which I feel, is water. So these are the 6 basic nutrients which we talk about. And of course, the macro are one, as you just spoke about. So when we talk about the macro, the word macro means it's required in large quantities. So whenever we talk about carbohydrates or fats or proteins, these are foods which we really require in large quantities so that we get, the various functions of our body are done the way it is required. So whether it's energy giving, whether it's bodybuilding, whether it's to store fat, or for the various enzymes to actually work and all. So that is where the functions of various macronutrients come into action. And the micronutrients required in minuscule amounts, so milligrams and micrograms, but they are so essential that even a single deficiency of these micronutrients can actually completely go haywire with your body, and all your macronutrients will not get absorbed. So that's how important all the nutrients are. So I start my conversation by saying moderation and variety is the key. That means everything is essential. And I'm sure by the end of the discussions, we're going to again say the same thing, that moderation and variety is the key to healthy living.
You stole it right. That's what I always say, that everything, in moderation is good. No. So tell us more about these carbs and proteins and fats. What do they do in the body?
Yeah. So, when we talk about carbohydrates, those are the ones, even if somebody sees the pyramid, the food pyramid, I think we've all grown up, in our science book, we have a typical pyramids and all. So the basis of the pyramid is carbohydrates. What it means is that you require these in the largest quantity. So almost about 50 to 60% of the food which you're eating has to be carbohydrates. Now, carbohydrates are the source of energy. So whether I'm walking, whether I'm talking, whether I'm doing any kind of activities, or even while I'm sleeping, there is a certain amount of carbohydrates which are required. Now the carbohydrates, we call them the good, bad, and ugly. So these are the 3 types which we say. So the good ones are, of course, the various kinds of carbohydrates which are the soluble fiber, which are giving me the energy, which are releasing sugar gradually. So those are the healthy carbohydrates or the good carbohydrates. So all your grains and your cereals are considered to be the good carbohydrates. And the best way for us to understand whether the carbohydrate is healthy or not is to understand the minimal processing a food undergoes. So we call it in our language, we call it the farm to plate theory. So the minimum distance that food has traveled, or the minimum time the food is taken to reach our plate from the farm, is considered to be the most healthiest of the food. So for example, you take oats. So the moment you take something like a champion oats, or we used to take those in our kids, which has to be cooked, etc. So that was most healthy. Now we've started getting all the processed ones where it's ready to eat. You just eat, add hot or cold milk, and it's ready to serve. So it's the same food, but has undergone so much of processing that from good, it has suddenly become bad, and probably over a period of time, it will become ugly. So, and the bad ones are, of course, the ones which are called the refined carbohydrates. That means the moment you take them, it instantly releases sugar. Though the sugar is very important for our body, but then it should gradually get released in your system. So if anything, so probably if you're taking a cup of, a sugar, or you're taking a glass of juice, you suddenly feel very nice. That's because the body is instantly getting that sugar. So yes, it gives that spike in your blood sugar, and you really you have that feeling of well-being, but that's very, very short-lived, and that is what is not good, because it's actually affecting your hormone secretions levels. So that's are called the bad carbohydrates, right? And but again, there are a lot of these fad diets, and I'm sure we're going to discuss about it. But carbohydrates still forms the absolutely most important part of our one's diet. So we really need to concentrate on carbohydrates. But yes, looking into the bad and the good ones is something which, of course, is very important. Going on to the next macronutrient is proteins. I think lots been talked about, and we have a fitness person over here. I'm sure he's going to talk about all the importance of proteins. But besides all requirement in proteins and your fitness, etc., the most important thing, they are called the body building blocks. So anything and everything you have in your body finally has a component which is proteins. Very, very important. But sadly and truly, most of us are deficit in protein. A number of reasons for that. India being a vegetarian state, so we generally most of us land up having very less of proteins because the good sources of proteins are basically your non-veg. Second, of course, there are lots of myths associated with proteins. You take high protein, you land up with kidney problems. You not after a certain age, you should not take high proteins. At night, you should not take proteins. It is very difficult to digest. So there are these myths, there are these unavailability, and of course the cost factor. Protein foods are usually a little expensive. So those are the reasons that why protein, even though being very important part of our our entire food pyramid and our requirements, people usually consume very less of it. So we really have to talk about proteins a lot. And in today's time, the pandemic times, protein is actually the most important nutrient because it actually helps you to build up on your immunity. So again, different sources of proteins, whether you're talking about the non-vegetarian sources, which is your, eggs and chicken and fish and dairies, etc. And then you have a large number of vegetarian sources also. So, you have your lentils, you have your nuts and seeds, you have your certain grains like quinoas, etc. are very, very rich sources of proteins. But yes, you really need to distribute it throughout your meals and make sure you're having good amounts of protein for the day, so that the basic requirements of our body are being met. The third macronutrient, which of course most of
Interrupt,
us
in the proteins, I'll interrupt. Are there any good, bad, and ugly proteins also?
So I would say no. So proteins are generally good. It's just the combination of food, from where are we getting the sources of protein makes it a little bit bad. But in general, even when I talk about a non-vegetarian protein, it is a very, very healthy because it's actually called the A-class protein. That means the body absorbs almost 100% of it. When we talk about the B-class protein, which is your vegetarian protein, there are various reasons for not getting absorbed fully. And there are certain, important essential amino acids which are probably deficit in the B-class protein. And hence, we really need to work a little extra hard or probably consume a little extra to meet our same requirements. But in general, all proteins are equally healthy. And, the best way is, again, as I say, variety is the key. So it's not that you should only be, lying back on or just being favoring your non-veg proteins, or probably just completely go off non-veg and become a vegan and just look for lentils, etc. But it's basically your moderation and variety, which will probably give you not only your protein requirements, but also we really need to remember when we talk about a food, it is just not one nutrient. It is actually an amalgamation of all the nutrients. And that's what the body needs. You can't just supply proteins and you just can't supply carbohydrates separately. You actually eat food, which of course the basic purpose is to relish and enjoy the food. But at the same time, it's also going to fill up the other requirement, which is basically your nutrient requirements of the body, right? So,
What about the processed meat, processed proteins?
yeah, so there are these different frozen or the processed foods which are available, and especially when we talk about proteins and all.
Yeah.
So, two, three things you have to be very, very careful about. One is, of course, anything which is preserved and is, kept like a cold frozen and all, would have some kind of additives for sure. So, additives and preservatives, these are the two dangerous words which we really have to be careful about, because most of the preservatives is either a salt based or a sugar based. And we know for sure both of these are the most ugliest food on earth, right? These are the man-made foods and they're not required by our systems at all. So the moment you're having a preserved food, that means you're adding extra salt in your body. And remember, we are the second most largest number of people in terms of hypertension. So therefore, we really have to be careful on consuming extra salt. The second is the preservatives and the additives. The other possible harm which they do to our body is they actually affect the gastric lining of our body. And remember, the gut immunity or the gut has the maximum amount of immune cells. So if you have too much of preservatives or too much of additives in your diet, over a period of time, it affects your gastrointestinal lining. And of course, besides the number of ill effects which it has, but the most important is it actually reduces your gut immunity. So ideally not very healthy. But again, once in a while, if you're having it, it's perfectly all right. But again, not like a daily cold, frozen, preserved foods is not something which is recommended.
We also get to hear, in the animal husbandry or in these farms, they use drugs and they use steroids to enhance the muscle growth of, say, the chicken, poultry, basically. So is that safe in our diet or not?
Yeah, so it's not only not only restricted to chickens, but of course even your eggs, even the dairy products which we have, obviously has a lot of synthetic agents, and it's been actually injected with a lot of like oxytocins and all are being injected, so that the growth hormones are there and the chicken grows faster. So probably the production, rather than the 3 months, has it comes in 1 month. So definitely those are very, very harmful. And in fact, one of the reasons, there was a research that was done by one of my girls, and it was seen that the reasons why the PCOS is on the rise in young girls is because they take too much of these non-veg foods, probably which are injected with oxytocin, which actually affects the hormones at your, especially for the females. So it is really not recommended. But again, I think there are a lot of these options which are now available, like you get those fresh organic ones, or you even the dairy products which you are getting is, again, you get the organic ones, or even the Tetra Pak milk which you get is completely safe, because the process which they use and the quality of milk which they use in that has to be completely insecticide free, any kinds of injectables or any kinds of hormones which are injected. So yes, whenever you're consuming food, you have to be very, very particular in terms of what quality you are taking. So definitely yes.
Over now, Tripti, over fat,
Okay.
Are there
So
any are there any good fats, or they're only ugly?
no. So again, fat is it's a word which has almost become like a dreadful word. And the moment anybody coming to our clinic, whether it's for a heart problem or a diabetes problem or a weight loss problem, the first thing they would come and say is, I have cut down on my fat. So that's the worst thing which you can do. In fact, I would actually talk about fat being an integral part of our diet. And it's the best way your body can store fat, because when you take carbohydrates, it gets used up very fast. So the body can only store glycogen or carbohydrate to a certain extent. So the majority of your body stores the energy in the form of fats. That's the first important. Most of all your signaling to the brain, the way it goes is all requires fat for it. So that's very, very important, that all the important signals which are going to your brain would require fat for a good transmission and for good messaging. The third important and very important, and that's the reason why we become very deficit in vitamin D and mostly the fat soluble vitamins, is that fat is required for carrying and absorption of your fat soluble vitamins. So fat, besides of course giving that taste and the satiety to your food, has very, very important role, and hence it is very important. In fact, 30% of your total food should be from fat. We have the visible fat and the invisible fat, meaning there are certain fats, like when you're taking a non-veg or you're taking eggs, there are certain amount of fats which are the invisible fat. That means you unknowingly you are consuming them. And then of course there is the visible fat, that is the amount of oil which you add to your food. So both are important and we do take it. But yes, now coming to the question of good, bad, and ugly, definitely there is one. So the good fats are, of course, I'm sure all of us have been hearing these days. The buzzwords are omega-3 fatty acids and the monounsaturated fatty acids. So these are the ones which are very, very, good for your health, be it diabetes, be it heart, be it for weight loss, be it for inflammation like arthritis and all. The so-called the good fats are your omega-3 and monounsaturated. Where do we get it from? So all your fish oils is omega-3, very good. All your nuts like walnuts, almonds are abundant in omega-3. All your seeds, so chia seeds, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds are very, very rich in omega-3. When we talk about the monounsaturated fats, so there are these oils like canola oils, olive oils, even our traditional rice bran oil, mustard oil, even soybean oil, they are very rich in monounsaturated. So those are the very good fats which our body needs. Then we have the bad fats. I would not say they're exactly bad, but they need to be taken in smaller quantities. So whether we're talking about the saturated fats like butters and mayonnaise and ghees, they are also required, but of course in smaller quantity. The moment you go above, it actually starts having detrimental effects. So you really need to monitor these quantities of these so-called bad fats. And the worst is the ugly fats. I think the ugly fats are the least talked about, but they are the ones which really need attention. And these are called your trans fats, or what we call the hydrogenated fat, or what we call them as the man-made fat, right? So these are the fats which are being used a lot in our bakeries, in the food industries. So whenever you bite into a biscuit which is nice and crisp and it melts in your mouth, you know they've added trans fats, because trans fats is basically added to give you that crispness of the food, to make the food have a longer shelf life, and also to give you that it actually adds a lot of taste to the body. But the trans fats have no benefits whatsoever. So they are the ones which are the worst oils, and these are the man-made oils. And again, so biscuits and your rusks and I would say your bakery items like a puff and all would be all loaded with trans fats. And we really don't need any trans fats. There's been a lot of legislations and laws which have been passed out, but still people are consuming trans fats. And trans fats, why are they very unhealthy? Because they actually lower the good cholesterol, the HDL. So I'm sure anybody who's got their lipid profile done, we have the bad cholesterol, like the total cholesterols, the LDL and the VLDL. And then we have the good cholesterol, which is your HDL, which is called the protective cholesterol. So why are the trans fats bad? Because it actually affects or lowers your good cholesterol or the HDL. Also, they are carcinogenic. So a number of the cancers, when we say having high fat diets actually leads to cancer, it's not because of the butter and the ghee, it's because of the trans fats. So you have to be very careful. And the best way to know is start reading labels. It's mandatory. So any food which has trans fats would be mentioned on the package. So whenever you pick up a package from the shelf, if you start reading the labels, you would get to know whether the food has trans fats or it is a negligible amount of trans fats. That's how we categorize your fats into good, bad,
So
and
anyway, one thing is very clear from what you have told so far, that all the man-made food is bad, whereas all the woman-made food is very nice. So I think this is a very good take-home message that, eat only the woman-made food, don't eat the man-made food. Men are bad cooks. So men should not be forced to go into the kitchen and cook food also. That's why I stay away from the kitchen. My wife can vouch for that. And the reason now is clear to everyone, that because man-made food is bad, so men should not cook food. Fantastic. So I'll bring the man in right now. Gaurav, please come in and tell us about what is this thing about calories. What
So
are calories?
yeah, sure, sir. And thank you, Ritika. Ritika has covered all the topic regarding fat, protein, and
Ritika ने
amino
तुम्हारी
acids
बेस
and
में ला दिया
everything.
बिल्कुल. She said कि proteins are okay, proteins are required. So I saw that white grin on your face when she was talking about protein.
हाँ. Sir, actually, मैं ये सारा का जो topic है ना, I'm going to cover in Hindi only because most
बिल्कुल
of
जी.
the India
Yeah.
doesn't understand fully English and कहीं ना
Correct,
कहीं वो
correct.
रह जाता है.
बिल्कुल बिल्कुल.
तो
देसी
first,
बिल्कुल देसी भाषा देसी फूड देसी घी में खाएंगे
हाँ. So calories total daily expenditure हमें हर बंदे का calculate करना होता है. When we are making the diet program, we have to understand the what kind of lifestyle a person carrying, sedentary lifestyle है, active है या very much active है. Accordingly, we have to decide how much carb he should have, how much protein he should have, how much fat he should have or she should have. So accordingly, we will decide कि how much calories a person should have according to workout programming. अगर वर्कआउट कर रहा है तो कितना प्रोटीन जाएगा, कितना फैट जाएगा, कितना कार्बोहाइड्रेट्स जाएगा. सो अकॉर्डिंगली वी विल डिसाइड एवरीथिंग.
good and so now is that the main thing क्या जो calorie intake is the main thing which decides your obesity or health or fitness or unfitness, or there it's not that important? It's not.
सर कैलोरी समहाउ कहीं ना कहीं होती है. टोटल डेली एक्सपेंडिचर से हम अगर ऊपर चले जाएंगे तो कहीं ना कहीं वो फैट में कन्वर्ट या बॉडी में किसी ना किसी फॉर्म में स्टोर होगी बिकॉज बॉडी इज डिजाइन फॉर सर्वाइवल मोड. सो अगर हम वी आर पुटिंग ओवर फूड इन द बॉडी, सो समहाउ बॉडी को जितना चाहिए वो ले लेगी, बाकी को क्या करेगी, बाकी को सारे को स्टोर कर देगी.
So I think so basically, generally speaking, one should look at the calories. It's not really a bad idea to look at the calories. No, one should not be obsessed by the number of calories, but grossly one should be able to, one should look at the calories and monitor them.
Yes, plus minus 200 300 calories would be fine, sir.
Yeah.
Because body has designed, if we are going to put much inside, so automatically the exit points is there.
Exactly. Input output balance hona chahiye. Ritika, you were talking about the micronutrients, so tell us more about that.
Yeah. So as I just said that, when we talk about the various nutrients, the 6 key nutrients, the vitamins and minerals are also very, very essential part of our nutrients, right? And these are called the micronutrients. And as the word suggests, it's basically required in very, very small micro amounts requirements of these various vitamins and minerals. So I'm sure all of us know about vitamin C, vitamin D, vitamin E. So all those vitamins, so A, B, C, D, E, which is there. And then of course we have the various minerals like iron and calcium, and of course the other ones which are now gaining a lot of importance like zinc and selenium and magnesium. So these are the ones which are required in very small amount, but are the most important ones for our macronutrients to get absorbed. So if I have a deficiency of, say, probably an iron, probably my entire cycle of absorption of the various nutrients would go haywire, right? Similarly, if I'm not able to take enough of my vitamin E, which is an antioxidant, probably I'm just getting into problems of lower immunity, getting into problems of fat malabsorption, getting into problems of various heart diseases, etc. So though these nutrients are required in very small quantities, but they are very, very essential. Now, why the suddenly, talk about these micronutrients? Because earlier what used to happen, our soil was so enriched with, so ideally the soil, you basically get it from your natural foods and fruits, vegetables, dairies, etc. Now, earlier we had our soil which was very, very enriched with all these nutrients. So we really didn't have to bother, you having your fruits and vegetables, you would get your ample amount of your micronutrients. But now what has happened is, one, this because of the various industrialization and the kind of harvesting and the agricultural processes which we started using, what has happened is that the soil has become completely devoid of these micronutrients because of the continuous erosion. So one, there is a deficit in the amount of fresh fruits and vegetables which we are getting. Even those are deficit in the micronutrients. Second, as I said, if you have it directly, there is minimum amount of processing, probably you would get all your micronutrients. But again, because of the various processes or the processing things which are happening to the various foods which we finally consume, we are probably on the way losing out on all the nutrients. Simple example is, for example, if you take your rice or you take your atta. So if you take the traditional chakki wala atta and all, it is loaded with your micronutrients, like all the source of B complex, etc. are there. Moment you get it processed, and finally it is you're getting your atta at home, which is in the packaged form, and when you're making it, it's absolutely white in color. You might enjoy it because it's very easy to digest and it tastes very nice, but it has zero B complex, right? So then that's how we get deficit in all these micronutrients, and probably we'll have to fall back on some other source of getting these micronutrients. So the best is, of course, to get it naturally. But again, if you don't get it and if you're deficit, then we probably start thinking about supplementation.
There's something called RDA, or the recommended daily allowance. Is it important to know that, and where can one find out about that part? No?
Yeah. So, we have our own. So internationally, there is the FDA which does it, which tells you the amount. Of course, internationally, the requirements are very, very different. So we have our own guidelines in India, which is done by the ICMR, which is the Indian Council of Medical Research, and of course NIN, which is the National Institute of Nutrition in Hyderabad. They come out with the RDA. So the recent which is the recommended dietary allowances, which talks about what is the requirement of all the nutrients. So whether we're talking about the macronutrients or we're talking about as small amount like vitamin B12, which is required in micrograms, to all the vitamins and the minerals, the recommendations are being given, which actually caters to the amount which is required on a daily basis for us to be healthy and to be able to absorb all the nutrients. And this is, of course, given in, so the latest recommendations had come out in 2010, which of course had, it was updated after a very long time. And if you can see, the amount of the micronutrients have actually gone up, and the requirements of the micronutrients have gone up, and the macronutrients have in fact come down. So we've actually talking that, you should cut down on the amount of the carbohydrates and the fats which you've been taking, but you really need to increase on the micronutrients like the vitamin C, the zinc, and the magnesiums and all. So that's a very good, base for all of us to understand that there is a requirement and how much is the requirement. The other thing which also, the RDA helps us to do is that, there are certain nutrients, if you go overboard, they actually lead to toxicity. So it's not that, the more you have, the better it is, or the better it is for your health. So all the nutrients, especially when you're talking about the fat soluble vitamins like vitamin D's and vitamin A, or even, certain minerals like iron and zinc, if you really go overboard, and that's very important for the general public to understand, that that's the reason why the RDA is given, that you should actually maintain your requirements as per the RDA, which is according to your age, according to your sex, according to your activity, also in certain nutrients. Because if you start consuming too much of it, you will actually lead to toxicity, which has severe detrimental conditions in, especially affects your livers and your kidneys to a large extent.
So where can one evaluate this requirement, and how do we decide what is the balanced diet for us?
Okay. So I'm sure all of us must have seen, we have this plate theory, which is, so when we talk about a plate theory, half the plate should be carbohydrates for sure, right? Because as I said, that's the basis of your diet. Of course, the type of carbohydrate is something we really should be very careful about. So half the plate should be carbohydrates. 1/4 of the plate has to be proteins, because we need about 10 to 20% of our total calories coming from proteins. So every meal, 1/4 of your plate should have proteins, be it your dals, be it your non-veg, be it your dairy products or whatever. And another 1/4 has to be from fruits and vegetables to give you the fiber. So if you, and of course, the fat becomes the invisible one. So for a layman, just to understand, the moment you sit down to eat, please make sure these three things are there in your plate. You have some carbohydrates, you have 1/4 of your plate, which is filled up with proteins, and you have 1/4 which is giving you basically your fiber. And basically when you talk about fruits and vegetables, they're also giving you all the micronutrients, so all your vitamins and minerals. So 1/4 of the plate has to have that kind of fiber. So that is what a balanced diet talks about. And also very important to understand is that it has to be balanced in all the three meals. What I generally get to see with people is, the breakfast would be just carb based or just a protein based. So take a protein a bar or something, and they're done with it. The lunch would be just roti sabzi, which is again very unhealthy, right? Probably the dinner would be just having, to be very healthy, they'll probably just load in some fruits or vegetables or just a bowl of soup. So though they have taken all the three components of the food, but because it's not taken together, the body is not able to actually make use of it the way we want to. So when we talk about a balanced diet, it has to be for all the meals, and not like, we're not like camel that we take in, we store it, and then we probably digest it later. The body uses and utilizes and digests it as and when it gets it. So if you're just taking carbohydrates, the mechanism would be completely different. If I'm just taking proteins and not taking my carbohydrates, the body will just use up all my proteins as energy source. So I've just wasted my protein. And if I just take fat, the body, I'll become very, very lethargic, because my entire fat has got stored in the form of an energy, and I'm not able to do any kind of work. So it has to be a balance in all your meals. That is very, very important when we talk about a balanced diet.
And one should not think about a pyramid in the plate, The food pyramid does not mean that you should, have a pyramid on the plate. It should be, the quantity should be less. Does the methodology of cooking make a difference? We talk of it, think of these new ways of cooking, air fryer and all that stuff, microwave. So does that make a difference in the nutrient value of the food?
Yeah. So again, it's the same concept, the farm to plate theory. The moment you're cooking or you're heating a food, you would be losing certain amount of nutrients. Now, there are good and bad parts to both of it, right? When we talk about very high protein foods, or there are certain foods which have certain amount of inhibitors. Like for example, when you take a simple example of egg, most of the gym goers have raw egg. It's actually not recommended, because there is something called trypsin inhibitors which are present in your egg. So if you don't boil or you semi-cook the egg, then you are not able to get your biotin and the various nutrients, because they act as inhibitors, right? Simple example, tomato. When you take it absolutely in the raw form, the lycopene is unavailable to the body. But the moment you make a puree or you cook it in the food, it's more available. So that's the good part about. And similarly about the protein. When you take it absolutely the non-veg protein in the raw form, the body is not able to digest it. But the other flip side is that there are certain nutrients which you actually lose while you're cooking. The most common example is vitamin C. 100% it gets destroyed the moment, because it's very heat liable. The moment you heat it, you are completely destroying on your vitamin C. So, when I get to see people having amla, they store the amla juice, or they warm the amla juice, or they would heat the little orange juice and have it, thinking that they are getting their vitamin C. They are actually not getting any vitamin C. So there are certain nutrients, the moment you heat it and cook it, would completely get destroyed. And there are certain which actually the body becomes more favorable, or the body starts getting it much better the moment you start cooking it. But having spoken about that, the other modes of cooking, like when we're talking about, your something like a chicken tikkas and all, where you barbecues and all. Now, those are very unhealthy form of cooking, because the moment you're cooking them, there are a lot of nitrates which get released, right? Or the nitric oxide, which we say is very, very carcinogenic. So when you're dry heating the food with the butters and all, because the moment you put in the butters and the various saturated fat, and you give it a very high flame, then probably there is a lot of change which is happening, and they're converting into trans fats and the various other kinds of gases which are being released. So those are very, very unhealthy form of cooking. Talking about microwave, again, very controversial. There are a lot of research to say that if you're just warming the food or exposing the food for a very short period of time, which is a minute or 2 minutes or even 5 minutes, it does not lead to any ill effects. But when you're cooking it for a very long period, like a 30 minutes and 40 minutes, yes, there are certain detrimental changes, and it is not recommended, right? And similarly, when we talk about the other forms of cooking, where I would say, the boiling and the steaming. So boiling not required, because the entire water soluble vitamins just get washed away in the water. So not a recommended form. So if you're boiling your rice and straining the rice, you're losing out on all the B complex vitamins. Steaming, very, very healthy, because you're retaining all the nutrients, etc. So yes, there are different forms of cooking, but I think our traditional way of cooking, which is putting a little bit of tadka and just sauteing your vegetables, is an excellent form. And we retain the curry and we retain the water in our curries, which is very healthy, because we actually can get all the nutrients. The moment you drain off the curries or you throw off the water, probably you're losing out on a lot of nutrients. But yes, deep frying and exposing the food to a very high temperature obviously leads to a lot of oxidation process, which is really not healthy for our body.
So this is for a basically average young adult that you talk about. How about balanced diet for children, for pregnant women, for senior citizens? No, can you just tell us more about that too?
No, so again, children, yes, the requirements are very, very different. So, because the growth is happening, the requirements of calories per kg body weight, the requirements of proteins, the requirements of nutrients like calcium and iron are almost double or 3 times of what is required by us. So yes, the requirements are very different. And again, for children, very important for us to understand, especially when they're in the pubertal age and the adolescent age, please do not restrict. So even when we say the certain fads are bad, or certain carbohydrates are bad, for children, they need all of it in moderation and in good quantities. And of course, make sure they're exercising a lot, because then they burn it out. So for children, the requirements are very different, very high per kg of their body weight. And of course, they requirement a lot of nutrients which are more important, like calciums, iron, vitamins are required in much larger quantity during their growth phase. Pregnancy, again, is one of the stages where the requirements are very, very high, both in terms of the macronutrients like proteins and fats and carbohydrates, and also the micronutrients like iron and folic acids are required in very high quantity. And that's the reason we always give them supplements and calciums and folic acids and iron, because the requirements are so high. And if the mother is devoid of these nutrients, it actually has a direct impact on the child's health. So those are age groups which have very different requirements, and hence they really need to come and visit a nutritionist, because she can actually make the diet as per the likes, dislikes, and as per the requirements, which is very different from a healthy adult person. Now, coming to the third group, which is geriatrics. This is one group, and in fact, now that we have a good, healthy geriatric population, which is adding on to our country, which is very nice to see, because post-retirement, I think people have started getting a lot of time, and they actually have started exercising a lot, and have and really taking a lot of interest in their diets and all. In fact, I'm surprised, because I would say almost 30 to 40% of the patients who come and visit me in my clinic are post 60 years, which was not the case, I would say, 10 years or 15 years back. So that's really one of the very healthy things which is happening in a country like ours. And And yes, the requirements of not in the term of the density of calories or the total calories, the requirements would be less, but in terms of the nutrients, like the so-called micronutrients and all, are very, very high. So again, this is one population where we really need to take care, because the requirements in terms of the density is less, but in terms of the quality of food is very important. And that's the time where all this kind of so-called chronic disorders start precipitating, like your diabetes, kidney problems, heart problems, etc. So if you eat healthy and make sure that you are eating quality food, I think we can actually be off all these kind of chronic problems, or probably delay the onset of these problems for sure.
Nutrition for diabetes is a very specialized subject. I think we cannot cover it in this thing, but can you just briefly tell us the principles of, say, for diabetes now?
So, so the concept earlier, the way it was, I remember when we had passed out 25, 30 years back, it used to be chini nahi khana hai, aloo nahi khana hai, aam nahi khana hai, right? So we are far away from that concept now. So when we talk about diabetes, it is basically eating a healthy, balanced diet. You can eat everything. You can eat a mango, you can eat a banana, but it has to be in moderation, and it has to be a combination of food. So if I only have carbohydrates, so giving a simple example, if I have 4 rotis and sabzi, my sugars would be much, much high rather than having just one banana. So when we talk about diabetes, I think the most important key point is that the quality of food needs to be monitored rather than the quantity of food. So you just don't talk about having 4 rotis and having, I'm not having sugar but I'm having 4 rotis. So that is not going to help you manage your diabetes. So, and of course the carbohydrate content has to be monitored at the end of the day. Proteins are very important. Remember, whenever a diabetic person has a combination of carbohydrates and proteins, the sugars are much better controlled rather than just having your carbohydrates, even though it might be a very healthy carbohydrate. So it has to be a combination of your proteins and carbohydrates. And of course, exercise becomes the key in management of diabetes. So yes, the diet is important, but equally important is exercise if you really want to manage your diabetes well.
So exercise and comes into the picture, Gaurav. So people talk of two things, two other extreme things. One is the weight loss. दूसरा देश है कि हाँ मसल बिल्डिंग की, हाँ कि फाइन कि मेरी मसल्स बाइसेप्स बननी चाहिए, एब्स बननी चाहिए. So let's start about the weight loss thing first. So what are the different types of diets which are there for weight loss? All those fashionable diets which we get to hear about, keto diet, Atkins, intermittent feasting. No, sorry, fasting.
Intermittent fasting, yeah.
Fasting. I call it feasting, and because I believe in feasting and high protein diet, etc. So what do you tell us about, first of all, weight loss regimes?
So first we have to understand why weight gain. So this is because of hormonal unbalance. Too much insulin spikes, growth hormones get reduced, and how this is and why this is happening. Because we, as much as carbohydrate we eat, insulin gets spiked. जैसे ही इंसुलिन स्पाइक होगा उस टाइम पे हमारा ग्रोथ हार्मोन लेवल नीचे जाना शुरू कर देगा, क्योंकि जो हमारा लिवर है वो इमीडिएटली IGF-1 को रिलीज करना शुरू कर देता है, या बोलना शुरू कर देता है पिट्यूटरी को, इमीडिएटली आई नीड IGF-1, ताकि जो बढ़ा हुआ इंसुलिन जो ग्लूकोज लेवल है उसको रिड्यूस कर सके. दूसरी चीज क्या आती है, आपके ग्रोथ हार्मोन आ गया. ग्रोथ हार्मोन जितना ज्यादा आपका इंसुलिन स्पाइक होगा उतना आपका ग्रोथ हार्मोन लेवल नीचे जाएगा. सो वो भी एक रीजन है हमारी ओबेसिटी होने का. तीसरा, स्ट्रेस. एड्रिनल ग्लैंड हार्मोन्स रिलीज करना शुरू कर देती है, स्ट्रेस हार्मोन्स रिलीज करना शुरू कर देती है, उसकी वजह से भी वेट गेन होता है. तो वी हैव टू फाइंड आउट द सिम्टम्स एंड रीजन के उस ओबेसिटी आ क्यों रही है. तीसरी चीज, जैसे ही हम कार्बोहाइड्रेट सिस्टम में डालेंगे या फिर प्रोटीन डालेंगे, फैट डालेंगे, बॉडी सबसे पहले ग्लूकोज में कन्वर्ट करेगी, बिकॉज लिवर, सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम एंड ब्रेन नीड ग्लूकोज. वो आप किसी भी फॉर्म में डालिए, वो कार्बोहाइड्रेट से डालिए, अमीनो प्रोटीन से डालिए या फैट से डालिए, सबसे पहले ग्लूकोज बनेगा, उसके बाद ग्लाइकोजन बनेगा, उसके बाद में आपकी बॉडी लिपिड को बनाना शुरू करेगी. सो इस तरीके से जो प्रोसेस चलता है, उस कंडीशन को सबसे पहले हमें कार्ब, प्रोटीन एंड फैट को बैलेंस करना है. कार्बोहाइड्रेट इतने ज्यादा जरूरी नहीं है ह्यूमन बॉडी के लिए, बिकॉज सेंट्रल नर्वस सिस्टम और ब्रेन को ही उतनी जरूरत होती है। आपका जो मसल है वो सारा का सारा अमीनो एसिड्स पे बहुत अच्छे लंबे टाइम पे मतलब अमीनो एसिड्स पे बहुत अच्छा काम कर सकता है। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, फैट इज अ लॉन्ग लास्टिंग एनर्जी। So rather than putting too much, sorry Ritika, please don't mind,
नहीं,
putting too much carbohydrates inside the body, we can consider fat, because fat giving you a long lasting energy. And apart from that, क्या होता है कि आप जो मर्जी चीजें खा लीजिए, सबसे पहले पायरुवेटिक एसिड बनेगा, पायरुवेटिक एसिड के बाद एसिकोटाइल CA बनेगा। अगर हमने वो पूरा प्रोसेस लिया तब हमारी बॉडी कर्ब साइकिल में आएगी, और कर्ब साइकिल में आने के बाद में एक मॉलिक्यूल जो है अप्रोक्स, अगर कार्ब्स का है तो 28 कैलोरीज के आसपास एटीपीज रिलीज करता है, प्रोटीन का 32 के आसपास करता है, फैट का 133 करता है। सो वी हैव दैट मच एनर्जी, 118 से लेके 133 के बीच में। सो वी हैव दैट मच एनर्जी। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, कार्बोहाइड्रेट की एक टेंडेंसी होती है, जब भी कार्बोहाइड्रेट बॉडी में जाएगा ग्लूकोज कन्वर्ट करेगा, ग्लूकोज बॉडी के अंदर वाटर को साथ में स्टोर करेगी। सो जो वाटर स्टोर होता है तो क्या होता है, जो बॉडी में जो पफीनेस दिखती है, वो सब चीजें दिखती हैं, वो बिकॉज ऑफ हाई कार्बोहाइड्रेट फूड्स की वजह से होती हैं। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट, आज की डेट में बहुत सारी डाइट्स आ गई हैं, जैसे और आपकी कीटो हो गई, इंटरमिटेंट फास्टिंग हो गई। इन दोनों डाइट्स में एक सबसे चीज आती है, एमटॉर बहुत अच्छे लेवल पे गेन होता है, या फिर ऑटोफेजी बहुत अच्छे लेवल पे गेन होती है। इन दोनों के फायदे ये हैं कि इंसुलिन कम स्पाइक होगा, ग्रोथ हार्मोन उतना ज्यादा। आज से अगर आप 30-40 साल पहले चले जाइए, जो हमारे एंसेस्टर्स थे वो दिन में 2 मील लेते थे, दे आर नॉट हैविंग मच मील्स। उसका रीजन क्या था, जितनी अब फ्रीक्वेंट बेसिस पे हम 4 से 6 मील्स लेने लगे हैं। प्रॉब्लम ये हो गई है कि ड्यूरिंग द एंटायर डे हमारा इंसुलिन स्पाइक रहता है, बिकॉज आप डॉक्टर हो, रितिका जी डाइटिशियन है, मैं खुद न्यूट्रिशनिस्ट हूँ, सो हमें पता है हमें क्या खाना है, लेकिन लेमैन को नहीं पता। वो क्या करते हैं, उन्होंने कहीं से सुन लिया कि 6 मील्स खानी शुरू कर दो, लेकिन 6 मील्स तो हम लोगों के लिए बनी ही नहीं है। 6 मील्स बनी है स्पोर्ट्स एथलीट्स के लिए, जिनको 6-7 हजार कैलोरीज ड्यूरिंग द एंटायर डे खानी है। वो एक बार में 6-7 हजार कैलोरीज नहीं खा सकते। डिपेंड करेगा आपकी डेली एक्टिविटी के ऊपर कि आप वो एक्टिविटी कितनी क्या कर रहे हो, कितनी कैलोरीज उस एक्टिविटी में स्पेंड कर रहे हो, टोटल डेली कैलोरी एक्सपेंडिचर क्या, उसकी कैलकुलेशन के हिसाब से हमें मील्स लेनी चाहिए।
तो कैसे
इवन
कैलकुलेट
लेमैन,
करें, सॉरी गौरव,
हाँ जी,
कैसे कैसे कैलकुलेट करें कि हमारी डेली एक्सपेंडिचर कितना है?
सबसे बढ़िया तरीका है 24 मल्टीप्लाई बाय वेट। उसमें टोटल कैलोरी अगर आपको उसमें मैक्सिमम मिल जाता है, उसमें प्लस माइनस 200 कैलोरीज कर दीजिए, 200 से 300 से कैलोरीज कर सकते हो। तो ये बहुत रफ आइडिया है कि 24 है जो वो आवर्स हैं, मल्टीप्लाई बाय वेट, तो टोटल कैलोरीज निकल जाती है।
Okay,
अगर आप जिमिंग करते हो, अब
Yeah.
इसमें जिमिंग करते हो तो आप टोटली कितनी कैलोरीज को बर्न कर रहे हो इन द जिम, वो ऐड कर दीजिए। अब अगर आपको वेट लॉस करना है तो उसमें से 500 कैलोरीज माइनस कर दीजिए। अगर आपको वेट गेन करना है तो उसमें 500 कैलोरीज ऐड कर दीजिए।
Okay.
अब ये हो गया। अब इसमें हाँ जी,
let us talk about weight loss first.
हाँ,
Somebody wants to go for a weight loss. So these different diets, की Atkins diet होती है, keto diet है, ये क्या है, कैसे करना है इनको, and what is more effective?
एज पर माई नॉलेज सर, जो कीटो डाइट है, कीटो है या इंटरमिटेंट फास्टिंग है, दीज आर वन ऑफ द बेस्ट डाइट्स। I'm not against carbohydrates. I take carbohydrates, but intermittent fasting में अगर आप एक कार्ब की मील ले रहे हो और दूसरी मील हाई प्रोटीन जा रही है, so that would be fine. आपको दोनों मील्स में कार्ब प्रोटीन का कॉम्बिनेशन रखना। मॉर्निंग में कार्ब की मील ले लीजिए प्लस फैट एंड प्रोटीन के साथ में, एंड रात को आप प्रोटीन एंड कार्ब्स फैट ले लीजिए। सो इट्स मोर देन इनफ। क्या होगा, बार बार इंसुलिन, जितना ज्यादा इंसुलिन स्पाइक नहीं होगा उतनी जल्दी आपका मेटाबॉलिक चेंजेस आते रहेंगे। जो पीसीओडी, पीसीओएस और ये सारे डिसऑर्डर हैं, ये हाई कार्बो, कोलेस्ट्रॉल का एक हमारी आर्टरीज में बढ़ना बिकॉज हाई कार्बोहाइड्रेट से होता है। क्या होता है, जैसे ही ग्लूकोज इमीडिएटली कन्वर्ट करता है, ग्लाइकोजन आगे से ग्लाइकोजन कन्वर्ट हो गया, उसके बाद जाके स्टोर हो गया, उसके बाद में जितना भी बच जाएगा बॉडी उसको, लिवर को क्या करेगी, उसको कन्वर्ट कर देगी सारे के सारे को लिपिड के अंदर। अब लिपिड के लिए बीटा ऑक्सीडेशन होना वहां पर बहुत जरूरी है। अगर बीटा ऑक्सीडेशन नहीं होगा, बीटा ऑक्सीडेशन का मतलब आ गया कि ऑक्सीजन का पहुंचना, जब तक आप पूरी कैलोरीज को बर्न नहीं करोगे बॉडी से, उसको वो बीटा ऑक्सीडेशन होगा नहीं, और ऑक्सीजन शुड बी देयर ऑन द सर्टेन हार्ट रेट जोन के साथ में। अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट टोटल कैलोरी काउंट कीजिए, उसका जो मैक्सिमम है आप 20 से 25% आप कार्ब्स उठा लीजिए, 50 to 60% आप उसका प्रोटीन उठा लीजिए, बाकी का जो बच गया वो सारा फैट उठा लीजिए. देयर आर सो मेनी वेरिएशन. हर बॉडी एक्चुअली क्या है, प्रॉब्लम ये है हर बॉडी के ऊपर डाइट अलग काम करती है. अगर मैं आपके लिए बोल दूं कि कीटो एक्चुअली 3-4 बार लग जाते हैं किसी भी बंदे की डाइट को समझने के लिए, बिकॉज हर किसी को कीटो काम नहीं करेगी, हर किसी के ऊपर इंटरमिटेंट फास्टिंग काम नहीं करेगी, हर किसी के ऊपर हाई कार्बोहाइड्रेट काम नहीं करेगी, हर किसी को प्रोटीन दे दोगे उस पे वो प्रोटीन नहीं काम करेगा. सो आपको 3-4 बार लग जाते हैं और किसी भी डाइट को हम 2 महीने से ज्यादा नहीं चला सकते, बिकॉज बॉडी गेट यूज्ड टू विद दैट पर्टिकुलर डाइट. So frequent basis पे we have to switch the diets.
Yeah, so some people say that in weight loss, 75% role is that of the diet and 25% of the exercise. Is that true or is it just a myth?
So, that's 100% true.
Achha, 75% diet. यानी कि 75%
Even
diet.
if you ask me, it's 85% diet and 50% of workout.
So if I reduce my diet to 85% and reduce my workout to 25%, will it be okay?
Yeah, that's fine, sir. You do it right now. You do the same thing.
So, okay, Ritika, let me ask you about all these fad diets, See, there are, I know
So,
that
yeah.
opposing
So,
school of thoughts, people, there's always a tussle, there is a war which goes on. And my wife is raising her hand. She also wants to add in her bit about these fad diets, So I'll come to her later on, but let me ask Ritika.
right.
So
No,
what
so
is fad
again,
diet?
as Gaurav said, so actually the first thing is that one size does not fit all. So that's the first thing which we really need to understand, right? Now, if you talk about all these diets, whether it's the keto diet or the intermittent diet or your Atkins diet, I'm sure this will show 100% results for everybody. For the simple reason that there is a mechanism by which, so I use a lot of keto diet for my epileptic children, and I have an epileptic clinic in my hospital where I run them, and that is required for a medical thing, and it really works wonders for the simple reason because the moment you're not, as he said, the moment you're not giving carbohydrates, the body has a glycogen store for not more than 10 to 12 hours, and if you do not give it beyond that, it will probably start using your fat stores, and then that's how the ketone bodies are built up, and you start losing weight because you're burning out on your fat. Similarly, the intermittent fasting works on the same principle that if you're not eating for 10 to 12 hours at a stretch, again, your glycogen stores goes down and your body starts using your fat. So definitely these would have results for sure. But you really need to understand that when we talk about food, when we talk about our lifestyle, when we talk about our weight, it has to be a lifestyle change. It cannot be like a periodic 1 month or a 1 year kind of a change, because again, it is going to come back. That is where all these diets fail. So one, they are not practical. Second, if you talk about a true keto diet, it actually says less than 50 grams of carbohydrate in a day. Can you imagine an Indian, even if he's a non-vegetarian, even if he has a glass of milk, he gets his 20 grams of carbohydrate in that one glass of milk. So where are we talking of a true authentic keto diet? So again, as a dietitian, I also do practice the intermittent and the keto, but let me tell you, it is not those authentic ketos or the intermittent fastings. It's basically a modified version.
Modified,
And
yes.
as we said, as he said rightly, that you really need to see what fits everybody. But if you're looking at a lifestyle modification, getting not only weight loss as one of your criteria, but also being healthy in general, that means having your blood parameters fine, being equally active, making sure that you're not getting into other kinds of side effects and all, then probably a healthy balanced diet works the best. But yes, if you want to follow a quick weight loss, I would certainly say the balanced diet would not work, and these diets would definitely work much better. And again, it's sadly but truly, by 2018, the most Googled diet was keto diet,
Keto.
and in 2019 it was intermittent fasting. So the most Googled diet across the globe is the intermittent fasting in the late 2019. So that's how popular these diets have become.
So Nidhi has some comments to
Yeah,
make.
I know. Nidhi should now say something.
I just couldn't keep it in. So the thing is that my deal with, so I'm a very avid gymmer and I do a relatively heavy workout. And my deal with all these diets and all these training things is that anything which is a fad and which cannot be sustained is not a good diet. Anything which can be sustained and which continues to keep you healthy is fine. Also, the one thing that I wanted to really ask you was that, in the past, we've been hearing about all this desi ghee being bad. Experientially, if we just peel off a few layers of, bias, we find that my grandfather lived to 100, my grandmother lived to a 95, my dad is now 80 and lifting very heavy. These people have had a healthy dose of desi ghee on their chapatis, right? And my children have had butter, and at 17 to 23 they have backache, they have that may be lifestyle also, but desi ghee, on the contrary, offers you a lot of satiety with very little. It is a good taste enhancer, and it gives you a healthy dose of what you will need for good central nervous system development. So studies keep changing, keep creating a lot of controversy, depending on who's promoting what at what point of time. So what is your take on these things, like, butter versus desi
No, so
ghee?
definitely ghee. See, ideally, when we talk about fat, we all know that we need, so when I talk about on 100 scale, I need 1:1:1 of my saturated to my polyunsaturated to my mono. These are different kinds of oils, right? Saturated fat, of course, as I just mentioned, there are ghees, there are the butters, there are those mayonnaise, etc. They all, the creams, etc. They all come into the saturated. So definitely when I talk about that one part, which is 10%, if I'm saying 30% of my fat, total fat, the food should be fat, out of which I would say 10% has to be desi ghee. So it has to be saturated fat. So the best form would be a desi ghee for sure. But again, remember that when we talk about desi ghee, that's one form of saturated fat. Now, if there is a person who's taking a lot of non-veg food, whether it's eggs or whether it's chicken or there is mutton, there is also a good amounts of saturated fat which he's getting from these foods. So therefore, just to say that all of us can have 2 tablespoons as adults as desi ghee is something is not recommended. But definitely there is, if somebody walks into my clinic and says, I'm a vegetarian and I do so much of workout and I and then I have my milk, so even cow's milk, for that we are absolutely fine with cow's milk because it has saturated fat. But if somebody is having cow's milk and desi ghee and a lot of butter chickens and the muttons, yes, we'll probably have to cut it down. But desi ghee definitely has a lot of advantage, be in terms of satiety, and it has the medium chain, the MCT is what we call, and those are very, very healthy because they do not go through the normal digestive process and they go to the lymphatic system. So that's why they are considered to be very healthy. And even for weight loss diets, if you don't give them the normal fat and give them desi ghee, they would do much better in a weight loss diet because of the kind of digestion process they follow. So definitely desi ghee has an edge over the other so-called refined food, but it is not in addition to whatever, what I say, the gund you are eating. But if you can actually modify your diet and probably move out the refined oils and start having desi ghee, we are perfectly all right with that.
And the second thing, it's resonating. Okay, so the second thing that I wanted to bring out, the young people these days eat a lot of rice and pasta and noodles, and so it's all very high glycemic index foods that they eat. How can they bring about a little more balance without too much effort? Because these are very satisfying foods. They are emotionally they're emotional foods. And clean eating means that they have to bring in an element of protein, which for them then becomes processed proteins. Cold cuts dale or pasta mein, and that's their meal. So a young person who is predominantly eating either microwaved heated food or carbohydrate rich food, which is otherwise dirty, how do they bring about a little more balance in their lifestyle?
Right. So, so the best way for all of us to understand whether the carb is healthy or not is what I tell everybody is, any anaj which you pick up and is absolutely white in color. So a pasta, a noodles, a white bread is nothing but having sugar, right? So that's how simple it is for all of us to understand that the moment it is absolutely powder like a maida, etc., obviously it is like having sugar. So the only way what you can do is that, yes, so if I say if I like pasta, I have to make sure that I'm probably adding a little bit of more vegetables into it and not having it as a white sauce base, because then it is 100% carbs. The other way, which the children, especially because my own kids are out, so the only way I can help them is, I give them tons and tons of nuts and seeds. So I know, because even if I'm telling them not to have a bread in the morning before rushing for college, there's nothing but to have a toast and then probably running for that. So the only way to make a good combination and make a balance out of whatever they're eating is to make sure they have lots of nuts and seeds, because that's one thing which is easily available. You don't need any cooking and all, and they can just have it, a handful of it, while they are on the go. So that's one thing. The second is eggs is something which I keep on telling all the youngsters specifically, because that's a very good A-class protein. And not the egg whites for sure. It is the whole egg with the yolk, because all the nutrients are concentrated in the yolk. So even if they have 1 or 2 boiled eggs every day in the morning, is something which will, so whatever junk they're eating, and if they make sure they have these nuts and seeds and probably have their eggs, etc., they would at least make up for some amount of the proteins, which is definitely required, right? And similarly with the dairies, there are a lot of controversies with the dairies that it's not good and all. But again, what I tell them is that if you can have your yogurts, and and especially for children who are in the hostel and all, if they can just have their yogurts or probably have their milk, you buy your Tetra Pak and have that. So those are easy, convenient foods, but at the same time, very, very healthy, to make sure that the entire food at the end of the day becomes balanced for them.
So coming to the protein part, Gaurav, tell us about the use of proteins in muscle building and in high performance sports.
Sir, if you ask me, I never recommend proteins.
Great.
Proteins are synthetic stuff. And if you really want to eat protein, then you can consider eggs, chicken, fish, these kind of stuffs you can eat, broccoli, mushrooms, paneer, milk. So these are the better sources rather than putting additional proteins, because in India you will get 95% fake supplements.
हाँ, तो ये जो फैशन है सप्लीमेंट का, कि जिम में जाते हैं लोग, पहले सप्लीमेंट खाते हैं, जिम से वापस आके सप्लीमेंट खाते हैं, एक्सरसाइज कम करते हैं, खाना ज्यादा खाते हैं, तो they want to make muscles without working very very hard. How does that work? No.
सर वी हैव टू अंडरस्टैंड कि मसल बनेगा कैसे. बनेगा मसल की रिपेयर होनी है अमीनो एसिड से. वी नीड हाई प्रोटीन डाइट, बट अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट हाई प्रोटीन डाइट हमें जरूरी नहीं है सप्लीमेंट से लेनी है. सप्लीमेंट इज द सप्ली योर न्यूट्रिशन. Means if you are not able to eat that much protein from your true natural diet, then you have to move towards the protein. अब मैं from past many years I have not touched any protein. आई एम हैविंग एग, फिश एंड शेक. और वो हाँ जब जरूरत पड़ती है, जैसे सावन आ गया, मंगलवार आ गया, उस दिन अंडे चिकन नहीं खा सकता, उस दिन प्रोटीन का स्पून लेना पड़ता है. आई डोंट हैव एनी ऑप्शन.
I was supposed to tell him that, right? So definitely getting the protein from the natural source is the best form, and that's why when I have any of these sports guy coming to me, if he's a non-vegetarian, I have the biggest grin on my face, because I feel my life becomes much simpler to meet his protein requirements. But the moment you have people like vegan and you have people who are vegetarians and all, it's a tough thing to meet their requirements. So again, as sports nutritionists, it's not like out of, you just have 2 eggs or 3 eggs and that will help you. No, it all depends on your body structure. What is your requirements of protein? So we actually calculate their protein requirements. And again, the first line of treatment is to make sure that they're getting it from the natural source. But if my requirements is about 100 or 120 grams, and if I'm a vegetarian, probably I will have to make sure that the balance of what he cannot get from the natural source does come from the protein supplements. So yes, especially people who are into heavy sports and bodybuilding and all, they would require certain amounts of protein supplements. But definitely the eggs and the chicken, if the person is a non-vegetarian, life is sorted. You can do it without supplements.
Well, so that brings me to a very important question, my favorite question, which I ask all the people who are into nutrition. Then they talk about proteins and non-veg. आपने कभी भैंस को देखा है, गाय को देखा है, घोड़े को देखा है? आपने क्या खाता है? घास खाता है, घास खाता है, चने खाता है. चने तो है, कोई अगर फोर्स फीड करेगा तब खाएगा. दैट इज सप्लीमेंट्स. नेचुरली वो घास खाता है, फिर भी तेज दौड़ता है, फिर भी उसकी मसल बहुत स्ट्रांग है, फिर भी मस्कुलर होता है, कोई प्रोटीन नहीं खाता है, कोई फैट नहीं खाता, कोई कार्बोहाइड्रेट नहीं खाता, तो कहाँ से आती है चीजें बताओ फिर आप।
गाय नहीं, गाय और भैंस नहीं,
चलो गाय भैंस को छोड़
घोड़ा
देते
ठीक
हैं,
है।
घोड़े को लेते हैं, ठीक है, मसल सब में होती है. You can take a lot of animals, you know, they're like I mean, say a lot of
Ox, you can consider ox.
all the herbivorous animals, they kind of they survive on eating leaves basically. Leaves do not have any proteins apparently, they do not have any fats or carbs, you know, but all the needs of the body are met, and they are very, very fast. That means their performance level is very, very high. They're very, very muscular, so the muscle growth is very, very strong. How does that happen?
Who's going to answer? I think Nidhi is going to answer that question.
See.
She says her hand. Nidhi, you can answer that question.
So nature has programmed all creatures to assimilate what they need from what is available to them. Human beings, as we have evolved, have lost that ability of assimilation from nature. हम घास पर survive नहीं कर सकते. जितने herbivorous animals हैं, they have 4 to 8 stomachs, whereas we as human beings have 4 to 8 meters of intestine. So there is a very basic difference in the way we digest food and assimilate it. In human beings also, if you, another favorite example that Sanjay gives, rickshaw puller, वो सूखी रोटी और प्याज के ऊपर 6 pack abs बना लेता है, 6 pack नहीं 8 packs भी बना लेता है, because for 8 to 12 hours in a day he is running the rickshaw with a 100 kg auntie sitting on the back. So he's doing that kind of physical labor. So he's doing that physical labor which none of us, we are all sitting, which is the new smoking. We should all get up and start changing our metabolism. Yeah. That question doesn't hold.
So actually, my idea is highlight one thing, that human body is an amazing machine. It can do a lot of amazing stuff, you know. So simple mathematics does not really work, you know. So it's always not that, you know, A plus B plus C is equal to D, or a protein plus fat plus carb is equal to healthy diet. No, it's not, never so, you know. And you should follow a gross plan. You know. The key phrase was farm to plate, which Ritika said. No, and ideal would be take the plate to the farm. We cannot do that. Animals actually take their plates to the farm. You know. They eat in the farm. So there lies the difference. You know. So if you go and eat in the farm, lead a natural life, you know, eat natural food, go out in the sun, you're running around, you're burning the calories, you know, and they are eating, I think maybe not just 6, maybe more number of meals in a day, animals. But what they do is they eat very, very small portion of food, which is calorie inefficient. They run around, they eat, they sleep, they wake up, they run around, they eat, sleep. So that is cycle which goes on. And there are about 6-7 cycles which they go through the day. But we are leading a very, very unnatural life. Our food is unnatural, our lifestyle is unnatural, and that is the reason why all this trouble happens. We are not working hard enough. We sit for 8 hours in a day. We eat food which is very high in calories, no, without moving a limb, which is not very, very good. So we should keep a generally balanced diet. Small meals is what is important, no. Burning the calories is very, very important, no, and don't go by these maths of that weight loss is 75% diet and 25% of workout. No, it's not so, you know. And eat everything as Ritika said, but eat less. Throughout my life, I have never been overweight. I have never been unfit. And my mantra has been that do not cross that line of, you know, the weight line. Always maintain yourself so it's easier to not gain weight, but it's extremely difficult and almost impossible to lose weight once you have gained. So eat less, eat everything, eat frequent meals, but burn out more. No? So the days when I start, I think, okay, fine, my weight is going slightly towards the upper range of normal. I start working out a little more. I start eating a little less. You know, that's how I try to maintain myself towards the lower end of the normal range for my height and my age. You know, so I think now it's time for taking the questions. Anupma, do we have any questions?
Hi, Dr. Dhawan, we do have questions, but do we want to take the questions right now, or do we want to take them on the board, because it's already past
So
the time?
if you have 1 or 2 questions, we can take that, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then there is this one question that has come up in different forms, supplements like whey proteins, and while Ritika and Gaurav have elaborated on the protein supplements,
Yeah.
there is still a lot of discussion around how about consuming peanuts, how about um, if a vegetarian is not taking protein supplements, what can they do? And then what do we do about whey proteins? So that's one. And I think alongside Ritika might probably want to also answer the sources for B12 for vegetarians.
So one, as I said, so again, the normal amount of proteins for a healthy adult is somewhere between 50 to 60 if you are ideal for your weight and age, right? So that's not very high protein. So even if you're vegetarian, eating a healthy balanced diet with your nuts and seeds and dals and dairies, you should be able to meet it. Now we are talking about this particular section of people who are into heavy gymming, exercise, youngsters who are requirements are very high. In those cases, and if they are vegetarians or vegans and they do not have many different sources of proteins, that's the time where the protein supplements fit in. So it's not like the entire population needs a protein supplements. Definitely no. You actually can make it from your natural diets. It's only for a very selective population who are into specific sports and probably have increased requirements to be really need to get into the protein supplement. So that's one thing. The second is, of course, about your vitamin B12. Vitamin B12, the sources are non-veg food and, of course, your dairy products. So these are the only two sources of B12. Interestingly, our body also manufactures vitamin B12. So it's not a person who's a vegetarian or does not take dairy would suddenly become zero in vitamin B12. It's our body's innate capability to make B12. So again, if you take dairy products, that's a good source for you. So please consume in the various form, whether it's curd or paneer, etc. And of course, if you take your egg or your non-veg, you do get your B12 from that. And of course, there are certain amounts which are available in your nuts and seeds also. So it's, and because as I said, the requirements are micrograms. So it's very small requirements. You can get your B12 from your normal food itself. So you really don't need to have supplements for that.
I think Dr. Manpreet had a question to ask. Manpreet, can you ask it yourself?
Yeah, can you hear me? It
Yes,
was
we
not
can.
giving me an
We
option.
can.
Okay.
We can.
Yeah, so two things I wanted to ask. One was we just had a session on COVID, and they talked about the role of foods which are anti-inflammatory, especially in the first 10 days. So can you please comment on that? Like in Indian kitchen, what are the common foods that we can include in that?
Yeah. So we've been doing a lot of talks on immunity boosting foods, etc. and all. So when we talk about, so there are two groups. One is anti-inflammatory and one is immune booster. So the anti-inflammatory would be specifically a vitamin E and your omega-3 fatty acids. So all your nuts and seeds are very, very healthy for that. And if you can take your green leafy vegetables and like walnuts, etc., those are anti-inflammatory foods. On the other hand, we have the immune boosting foods, which is of course your vitamin A, your C, and your zinc and selenium. These are the four important nutrients. In fact, any person who gets detected gets a zinc supplement for sure. So zinc and Lim-C are something all of us have been consuming now. And the best source of zinc, selenium is nothing but eggs and nuts and seeds. So if you can have a good amounts of nuts and seeds, like almost a handful of almonds and 2-3 akhrots on a daily basis, and at least 2-3 tablespoons of your seeds, the different, whether it's the chia, the flax seeds, the pumpkin seeds, etc. Those are the best form. And again, never forget your eggs. And again, emphasizing have the whole eggs and not the egg whites.
Mm-hmm. Okay. The other thing I wanted to ask is about this fad going on about almond butter and cashew butter. What are your thoughts on that?
So when we talk about so almonds are very healthy. So, but when you take almonds as a dry fruit, you are getting not only the fat portion, but you're getting all the complete nutrients. So almonds are the richest form of proteins. They're very high on magnesiums. They're very high on your omega-3s, and they're very high on various nutrients like the other ones like seleniums and the vitamin Z's, etc. When you are talking only about the almond butter, probably you are just restricting yourself to only the fat portion of it, which is also healthy, right? So if given a choice, I would definitely say have the almonds per se, because you also get, it's one of the very good sources of fiber if you have it with the skin. So if given a choice, I would definitely say the almond per se is much healthier. But again, the almond butter would be much healthier than a butter option. So, you really have to see what is the option available to you. So rather than getting a butter, I would say a peanut butter or an almond butter is healthier. But if given an option between a peanut and an almond butter, I would say the peanuts or the almonds are much more healthier.
So what's your
Okay.
final one-line message to the audience today?
As I started saying, moderation and variety should be the key to healthy living.
Wow, great, fantastic. And Gaurav, आप बताइए एक लाइन में क्या संदेश है आपका दोस्तों के लिए?
सर रितिका जी ने बोल दिया. It's perfectly fine.
Yeah. And Ritika also said that, you know, from farm to plate, but I will say take the plate to the farm, you know. So be as
Yeah.
natural
That
as
will also
possible. You know.
involve some exercise, right?
Yes, there's a lot of exercise, sun exposure. People don't talk about
Yes.
sun exposure. Sun is a very important nutrient. You know.
Nutrient.
Take it as a nutrient. You know. So, but half an hour of sun exposure every day is required. And so go to the farm, eat over there. If you can eat raw food, fantastic. Because any amount of cooking makes it artificial, makes it unhealthy. The more cooked it is, the more unhealthy it becomes. The more processed the food is, more unhealthy it becomes. You know, anything can be that can be shelved is not worth eating. You know, so eat natural, eat raw if you can. You know. And next Sunday we have a very important talk coming up. You know, where Rahul Ram, who is the lead singer and guitarist of Indian Ocean Band, he'll be coming on our show and talking to us about how to sing better. So do join in next Sunday also. And that is the thing. Rahul Ram was basically a scientist who's become a singer. So amazing journey he has. We'll talk about that next week. We're also introducing a new club, that is the photography club, along with our music club and book club and the workshop that we launched now. So wait for the announcement for this. More details of this will be coming to you very soon. And after the music thing next week, the week following that, we'll be talking about dance, how to dance your blues away. So we have very interesting talks coming up. So stay with us. I'd like to thank Ritika for taking your time from a busy schedule to talk to us. Thank you very much. Your talk was very enlightening and you resonated with me, you know. Gaurav, thank you very
so
much.
Thank
You know, you
thank
talked
sir.
very well. When you said कि हाँ supplements की जरूरत नहीं है, that made me very happy, you know, right? So because otherwise people who are trainers into fitness, they talk of supplements. You know, you talked of the natural stuff. Amazing. Thank you very much for being with us.
Thank
You know?
you.
And Anupma, thank you very much for helping me in the background. And so guys, we come to the end of today's show. Next week, please come back, same time, same day. And please join our group on the Facebook, The Live Chat. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you, sir. Bye, sir.